Hey guys, Jake Hintze, Hintze Custom Knives and EDC. It's been a really long time since I've done a video. I've been crazy busy with just getting orders out when I can, trying to be a new dad, figuring that whole thing out, and kind of focusing on things in my day job. But start trying to get some time to do these videos again. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to try and stick with it. I thought I'd bring you guys along with this project. This is going to be kind of a really long ongoing project, but it's going to be really cool when it's done. This is my Wilmarth and Mormon 100-year-old surface grinder. This thing was built somewhere in the area of 1917. I haven't seen one of these before. I did a lot of research. I contacted all the go-to people that I could find, at least, for manuals and knowledge on this machine, and it's just not out there. As far as I can tell, I have the only one. I'm sure there's one hidden somewhere. Maybe if you're seeing this and you got one, comment below. I want to hear about it. If you got some resources on this, I'll beg you to send me some stuff. I'll pay you to send me some stuff. Any share of information on this machine would be great. The only information I could find on this was in a 1917 Boston Trade magazine that talked about just the sale of these, and there was some options that these came with. These things were state-of-the-art for their time. They have an automatic oiler. They had a water coolant option. They're automatic feed, automatic table. It's a pretty amazing piece. So I'm going to bring you guys along as I clean this thing up. I'm going to do a few things with it. I'm going to be converting it over to a belt abrasive on it so that I can do different surface finishes, and it tends to be the go-to for knife makers. So stick with me. We're going to get started. Hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, I got you set up over here so we can get the grinder spun up, and then we'll get the table moving and start taking some skim cuts here. You can see right there how shady these are. The end of the table just lifted for whatever reason. I didn't have these locked down. Maybe that was part of it. Took a big cut out of the end there, but luckily that shouldn't be an issue there. All right, we'll try that again. As you can see, I'm letting it spark out, is what they call it when it goes from shooting lots of sparks to just a little bit. That's when you know that you've taken about the maximum amount of material off there. If you do that, you're going to keep everything nice and even and flat. going real slow on this, especially on this first cut, because you see how uneven it is. I'm only cutting material at that very last like 6-8 inches. So that tells you kind of how uneven this table is. I'm glad I'm going through the process of doing this, because when you're doing thin materials like knives, you gotta take even surface cuts and you gotta take real small amounts of material, otherwise it's really easy to warp the material. Alright, so you can see here I finished the last pass. Got a nice pretty finish all the way along the table. The only weird thing, and I don't know why it would be like this, maybe they didn't do this procedure to surface grinders when this machine was built, but you see here there's a good lip. And I don't know if you can get in close enough to see how much material I actually took off, but it was a decent amount of material. But this only has a 6-inch travel from the inside of the wheel on this side to the outside on that side. So I'm unable to surface the entire thing, which is kind of a bummer, but luckily my magnetic chuck is only 6 inches wide here. So while it's a bummer for the machine itself, I'll be able to make it work. This will still fit. It will still fit flush on the machine. So the next thing I'm going to do, while it was surfacing this area, I was doing about 5/10 a pass, and I got a really nice smooth finish on here. I'm really happy with it. It's going to work well, but it took me about 2 hours to get all this off, because I was doing automatic feed coming across this way, going real slow to get that optimal surface finish. So now the next step will be you take a stone, and I gotta look because only one edge of this is like really actually kind of flat. And then you just run along here, and all this is gonna do is on these edges, if we get in close, you can kind of see the burrs along that edge. So we just want to make sure there's none of that sticking up. That's going to cause the chuck to sit off of level. And you can feel, you can kind of hear the difference, but you can feel when that burr is gone, because it'll slide nice and smooth, and otherwise it kind of catches as I go along. Like here it's nice and smooth. I got that burr right there, there's a little spot along this end. That side's good. You can just feel that burr, and once it slides real smooth, you know that burr's not sticking up at all. And I don't really want to try, I could get in here and kind of do one of these along at an angle, try and kind of chamfer it, but I don't really want to do that, because in doing that you can actually push real small amounts of material up. You can round that edge up a little bit, and then you're actually kind of defeating the purpose of doing this whole thing. So and that feels pretty good. being an old machine, you saw that oil on the back of here. This thing has an automatic oiler, but it leaks like a sieve because everything's just kind of open, which is actually good because that lets all the dust flow off of the pathways. I can show you here. I'll just move it. This normally has a crank, and if you look, this actually comes out. So this disengages so that when you have the automatic feed, you're not spinning this wheel and getting stuff caught up in there. But if we do this, on this end you can see what the tracks look like. And they literally, it just sits. It's literally, you can pick the whole table up off of here. You can see here, this used to have a piece like this on that side, but that snapped and I don't have that piece. So the other thing I'm going to do is just manufacture something real simple that I can bolt up on here that's going to cover this, just to help keep more dust out of those ways, and that way I don't end up, it's probably part of the reason why this machine sat low on this side. There's more wear over here because of the dust that got into that track. So once I cover that up, hopefully it'll wear better in the future. So let me show you guys around this machine a little bit. Like I said earlier, this machine is somewhere around 100 years old, which I think is just unreal. It was built turn of the century. Earliest I saw was 1917. And I think there's some really cool technology on here for that. The thing that I think sets this apart, and I don't know a ton about surface grinders. I'm still new to this whole machining thing, but this machine, unlike most of the ones I see, modern ones, and maybe this is not a good thing, but this is built more like a Bridgeport. It's got a knee, just like a Bridgeport does, a mill, up under here. And you turn this crank and the whole table comes down. Whereas the new machines, all the height adjustment of the wheel is in the arm. So I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. I don't know if they do that now just for space saving, or I don't know. If any of you guys have any input on that, let me know. But if it's good for, you know, the Bridgeport is considered pretty much the best mill in the world from most machinists and most people I've talked to. So if this has basically the same design, does that mean it can really be that bad? I don't know. I would think it'd be fine. I think it's certainly going to be fine for my ability and what I actually know about machining and how good I can actually run this machine. Because just like anything else, the machine's only as accurate as you are. If I don't do things the right way, it's not going to be that accurate. So this was all retrofitted. This machine, the cool thing about this machine is being as old as it is, I don't know if I can get it off real well, but up under here, this machine used to be when factories were run off those big leather belts. So through there, there's actually some pulleys, and that would run up to the ceiling to big, I guess, racks of belts that would run throughout, and they actually ran off of steam power, I believe. But this was retrofitted with a motor. I have no idea how old the motor is. But I also know that that was an option straight from the factory as well. So I don't know if that cover was ever used that way or not. I know all my electronics on here, I probably shouldn't open this while power's on, but all my electronics in here are relatively modern. It's kind of old fuse technology. I would say this stuff might be, I don't know, I wouldn't even venture a guess at how old it is, but I doubt it's super modern. There's definitely nothing computerized in here. And I got my master on off, which is nice because this machine is actually 3-phase. So I had to buy one of these. This is an American rotary phase converter. It's a full generator version. This is a Gentech Baldor motor that they use for your third pole. These things are great. American Rotary, I tried a couple other kinds. Granted, they were static converters, which aren't as good as these generator converters. But American Rotary, they have unbelievable customer service. I ordered this on eBay, and I actually got a call from the company just to make sure that I was buying the correct equipment. Well, whether that's a sales technique or not, I don't know. But they wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to get, or I had the right piece of equipment to be able to run my machine. So they called and they said, hey, we got your order. What are you going to be running? And this is actually like their cheapest model, believe it or not. They have this is kind of their analog model. And I figure for my old analog machine, it should run just fine, which is what they told me. They didn't try and upsell me. They didn't try and say, hey, you should really get a more expensive machine. They said, yeah, it's going to work perfect for you. We'll ship it out. I had it within a day. Granted, built right here in Wisconsin in my home state, so I'm a little biased. And I can't say I've ever run any other phase converter other than the couple of crappy static phase converters I bought, which just aren't big enough for this type of machine. But hey, yeah, go check them out. If you need a phase converter, American Rotary. American made, great quality stuff. This one was about $400, which for what I got, I think is actually pretty cheap. Comes with good instructions, great customer service. I don't know, check it out. The other cool thing about this machine, cool but also kind of a pain in the butt if I'm honest, is the table has air assist. So if you can see down here, it's really dark. I don't know if you guys can see that really well. But there's another small motor here, but there's up in here is a belt-driven air drive. I don't even know. I haven't opened that cover up yet, so I don't know exactly what it looks like. But that thing runs off of my air compressor, and this is just a 21-gallon Harbor Freight air compressor, and it runs it just fine. So it doesn't consume a lot of air, but the fact that I have to run it with air is kind of a pain in the butt. But that helps assist the table move, and so it doesn't have to use much power to do so. That probably would have been a big feature for when you were running it off of belt, would be my guess. I don't know. What else can I show you about this thing? That's a 2-horsepower motor. Compared to motors of today, this thing is giant. I mean, you can see how big this thing is. That's huge for a 2-horsepower motor. But my guess is, just like anything built back in the day, it's big cast iron. This thing will run forever. If it ever fails, I'm sure all I'll have to do is pull it apart and clean it, put it back together, and it'd probably be good to go. This machine has a lot of little oil ports. Like I said, it leaks like a frickin' sieve, but I love it. This machine is probably my favorite piece of equipment I have. It's gonna be the thing that helps me start making my folders, which is coming soon. I'm gonna hopefully try and bring you guys along for a ride on that to see probably more failures than successes, but hopefully some successes. This thing's just amazing. I just love this machine. It's old. It's probably not as accurate as a lot of the modern stuff, but it's got character, and I'll never get rid of this thing. I love this. I'm gonna put money into it. I've already put a bunch of money into it. The phase converter costs more than this thing itself. I got this for a killer deal at auction, probably because it's a behemoth and nobody would pick up a piece of equipment this big. But I love it. Oh, the other cool thing on here is the automatic oiler, which is this contraption back here. I plan on cleaning this up. And this is all actually brass. So I'm going to clean it and kind of do a set and polish on it when I pull all this apart. One of the chambers is broken. These are actually like drip chambers, like you would see with an IV line on a patient. You know, I'm a paramedic, so I kind of use those references. But it's kind of cool. You can see the little oil dripping down there, and these are just wide open lines. They literally just flow. It drips down, and they just flow out into the ways on the machine. So it's kind of cool. I think what I'm also going to do to this is I'm going to add a cool mist attachment to it. I don't really want to run full liquid coolant. This machine was designed to do that. I don't have the attachment for it, but if you see the way the tray is built, all along in here, there's pathways up in here, and then it's kind of full of gunk, so you kind of can't see it, but there's a hole right down here that would flow all the coolant into this tray and then out through this hole down below to catch it somewhere or just run off, or I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm going to put cool mist on here for when I'm running belts, and hopefully that'll work out. So that's going to do it for now. Next, I got to go through and get my chuck figured out. I got this kind of cleaned up today. You can see this thing's pretty cool. I have to do a little research on this. I finally was able to see it's a car, K-A-R, Barrington, Massachusetts, maybe? But I got to do a little research on this. I want to find out maybe how old this is, if this was something that maybe came with my grinder or not. I'm not sure. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to hopefully have some time to do a lot more content, bring more to you guys as I go through the next kind of phase of my knife making journey here. So like this video, comment below. Like I said, if you know anything about this machine, please let me know, because I'm trying to find everything I can about it. Subscribe to my channel. Thanks for tuning in.